Hey everybody, Brandon Minnick here, and in today's video, we're talking about one of my favorite tools for AWS developers, the AWS Toolkit. Stay tuned. If we haven't already, we need to install the AWS Toolkit. It comes as an extension for Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, and JetBrains Rider. Now to install it, I just navigate to the Visual Studio Marketplace, and I'm going to click Download, which is going to give me an installable executable. And once that's done downloading, I'll double click it, install the extension, and then we'll jump into Visual Studio. Now that we're in Visual Studio and we have the extension installed, let's play around with it. First thing we want to do is go to View, AWS Explorer. The AWS Explorer allows us to connect to our AWS account and interact with anything that we're using in AWS. So first things first, let's connect to our account. To do so, we'll click the Add User button, where we're greeted with a prompt asking us for an access key ID and a secret access key. And we get these values in IAM in the AWS console. Let's go take a look. In the AWS console, we'll navigate to IAM, Identity and Access Management. Here, we'll click on Users. And if we don't have an existing user, let's add one. For me, I'll click on Visual Studio Toolit, which I accidentally misspelled. Scroll down to Security Credentials. Scroll down again to Create Access Key. Click on Create Access Key, select Other, input a value, so this will be Visual Studio Toolkit, and this will give us our access key and our secret access key that we'll copy-paste into the Credentials Manager in the Visual Studio Toolkit. Now that we've authenticated and connected to AWS, we can see all the available services to us right here from the Visual Studio Toolkit. For example, I have some existing AWS Lambdas that are up and running in the cloud, and we can interact with them here. But first, let's create a new one. So let's go to New Project and show off one of my favorite things with the toolkit is all the templates it comes with. So we get our CloudFormation template, we get our AWS Lambda template. So let's go ahead and create a new AWS Lambda project. Let's call it AWS Toolkit. Just an empty function. We have a Lambda function that is super simple. It takes in a string input, converts it to uppercase. Let's go ahead and publish directly to AWS. We can right click on our project here and select Publish to AWS Lambda. Add our function name, which we called our AWS Toolkit. Select our IAM credentials. I'll just use my existing credentials from the AWS Lambdas that I've already published to the cloud, and then click Upload. And that's it. With just a couple clicks of the mouse, we've used the templates to create a brand new AWS Lambda function. And with just a couple more clicks, we have published it to the AWS cloud. Now, once this is done, we see it immediately show up here in our panel on the left in our AWS Explorer, and we can view the function, which has already come up for us here. And we can start playing around with this. This is live in the cloud. And so one thing we can do is tell it to invoke. Now, this is getting mad at us because we didn't give it any input. So let's give it a string input that says, hello world, all in lowercase. Let's invoke it again. And there we go. We get our response back. That's hello world in uppercase. So with just a couple clicks of the mouse, we have a serverless Lambda function up and running in the cloud, created using the templates in the AWS Toolkit for Visual Studio. Now, something else that's really cool with the Visual Studio Toolkit is that we can look at the logs. So let's look at an existing function that I have. This one's for generating thumbnails from images that I upload from my mobile apps. And here we can access the logs from the functions that are running in the cloud and check in to make sure everything's going to plan. Thanks so much for joining me. Be sure to download and install the AWS Toolkit for Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, and Rider to get up and running on the AWS cloud today. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button down below and subscribe to make sure you never miss a video.